everyone, thanks for joining on the very first episode of Owen's podcast, where we just talk about anything that sparks our interest, anything that is fun to talk about. Here I've invited my good friend Eric onto the podcast. I think we're just going to talk about AI, tech, and dating life, and then a little bit about traveling.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm a very dynamic person, so very excited to be on the show with Owen Murphy, my very good friend.
Awesome. Do you want to kick it off with?
Yeah, I
travel
could do
to-
a quick introduction. My name's Eric, born and raised in New York City. Currently, we are live in Washington, D.C. So, most recently, I was traveling in Japan for 3 weeks. I started in Tokyo, and it was a very, very interesting experience to be visiting Japan for the first time. Most of the people in Japan usually stay in Japan. So domestically, I think Japan is like 90%. So the very few people that you see are Japanese walking around outside of Japan is a very small minority.
But isn't that in every single country, though?
Now that I think about it, you're kind of right. But Japan is still exclusively closed borders for their own people.
They make the style of living easier for their own people and make it harder for the people that are coming in.
I think it might be maybe the cost of living for Japan might be different, geopolitical, lots of different reasons why I think Japanese people are kind of stuck in Japan per se.
I see.
And also, Japan itself is wide. Like, there's so much space to cover, so many vacation spots, so much cultural hotspots. It's amazing. You don't even have to necessarily leave Japan to do all your vacations because there's so many different parts of Japan that you haven't visited yet. And their infrastructure is super, super convenient that allows you to go from one place to the next rather quickly.
That I would. That's like New York, right? Kind of similar. Or I guess you could say that about
New York is
the Northeast.
outdated, right? New York
Yeah.
subways is outdated. It's loud, noisy, dirty. But Japan, a total different world.
Well, there are very nice parts of New York City, right? You have Five Eye. You have
Yes.
Midtown.
You
have
think
Hudson
Five Eye is
Yards.
nice? I was
course.
thinking like, maybe Westchester or some places on Long Island. Bronxville. Is Bronxville nice?
The Bronxville town, yes, it's nice, but
The subway.
it's a small area. Bronxville is a small part of entire, I guess, if you will, Westchester.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that really cuts it with infrastructure.
But why do you not think Five Eye is not nice?
Well, financial district is more like a working area. So how would you describe it being nice?
I would describe it being nice in the fact that it does have stuff to see. It's good, aesthetically pleasing to look at. It's clean. I don't see homeless people when I walk around that area as much.
There's
as
some nice
opposed to-
cobblestone there. I mean, what they call it, Stone Street is there. That's where all the local pubs are.
Okay.
They have some nice hanging decoration there as well.
Yeah.
But I think walking around Five Eye is also pretty difficult because there's not that many trains that go there. Maybe the 1, 2, 3, and that's pretty much it.
No, every train goes through there. What are you talking about? It's just a matter of the Five Eye is the entire
Right.
bottom part.
Yeah, we have to specify where specifically financial district is.
I would say obviously the places closer to Battery Park are nicer than the ones on the other side, but the entire bottom part I would say is nice.
I agree.
Most of it.
Well, I also really like Midtown too. It's very nice. Those sleek
Yeah.
office buildings. I love skyscrapers.
But Midtown includes Penn Station area where all of the homeless people are, and it smells not good.
Yes, I agree with that. That's because, they're taking bus transportation and they're stopping there, and you know how easy it is to just travel between states.
Is it that easy though on Amtrak with all the delays?
For me, it's because I go from DC and New York, so I think it's a longer route, and that's why it usually gets delayed. But I think they still kind of make it at the finish line on time because they drive much faster.
What? Who drives faster?
The Amtrak, I think the conductor just steps on the gas.
Oh, I see. I guess you would know that because you've been on the Amtrak
Yes,
for a long
yes,
time.
yep, Amtrak.
Yeah. But you go on the Acela sometimes too, so maybe you have a biased opinion.
Yeah, I do take the Acela sometimes, and I think the Acela is probably a lot less late.
I would hope so. You're paying a premium for that.
Yes, I do.
Is that also so? It's an entire train. The Acela is one train. It doesn't include regular basic economy Amtrak people. It's just
No,
a whole train
it basically has one, well, two really. One is just premium, and then the
Okay.
one is ultra premium. So it's like business and first class.
Yeah, so anyone that takes that train has to pay the Acela
Yes,
prices.
and you get assigned seating.
Oh.
So unlike Amtrak, you kind of sit wherever you want, but with the Acela, you're buying a seat on the train.
All right.
And when I was in Japan, actually, I was at the Shinkansen, which is the bullet train, and I was so surprised that people actually stand on the bullet train. Like I paid for these tickets, and they were standing only, because the seats were all full. So I was like, what happened to capacity planning here?
How long was your Shinkansen ride?
I think it was around maybe 2 hours from Tokyo to Kyoto.
And you were standing that entire time?
I was standing during that entire time, and I think maybe they stopped maybe two or three, because even the Shinkansen, they have super fast trains, super fast trains, and very fast trains. And I was on the Mizumi 8000 Supreme, which was very fast.
That's a type of
train.
Okay.
Like the top speeds, I think was, I don't recall, was it kilometers or miles? I don't know. How much is 200 kilometers per hour? Is that fast?
120 maybe.
120
miles per hour.
That's a little slow. Maybe
Because
like
40
300 kilometers per hour then.
40 miles per hour is about 60 kilometers per hour. I
Okay,
think.
so we'll do the math.
There's no need to do the math. It's okay. So it was relatively easy though navigating through Japan.
I would say so. Everything runs on time, and you have to be really fast too. You know how like the MTA with the subways, you kind of like have to go to a connecting train after the stair steps.
Yeah.
In this case, in Japan, you see everyone rushing to catch the next train because they're that on time, and they also kind of synchronize their trains to be scheduled one after the other, which makes it very efficient. But if you're slow, or if you're older, and if you're carrying a lot of luggage, then you're out of luck.
So everything was in English, so you could navigate, or did you do?
No way,
translation
nothing was
sometimes?
English in Japan. Actually, everything was in Japanese. They're a very nationalistic country. They spoke in Japan everywhere. All the signs were
Spoke
in
in
Japan.
Japanese.
Yeah, they spoke in Japanese. I can't English today.
I thought the signs, at least the airport, I know is English, but a lot in the major cities, I thought most of the signs had an English translation underneath it. No?
Yes, they probably have English
But
translation.
you're saying that when you're doing transportation, some of the signs are not in English, and that.
I think they still have the translation.
Oh, okay.
But like on the voice recording, it'll mostly be in Japanese. But then during like really touristy or busy stations, it'll have the English translation as well.
So did you ever have a sense of pressure or have a sense of uncomfortableness that you didn't understand what was going on in the moment when they were talking in Japanese?
Not too much, especially in this day and age. We have really good technology. You
What do
know,
you
you
mean by
have
that?
Google Translate. And also I did 3 years of Japanese in high school. So I could read, write, but I just don't know what I'm reading and writing because I don't understand. It's like learning the ABCs, you know? You just put these letters together, but you don't know what it means.
So back to the topic of Japan.
Yes.
What would you say your favorite food was? Did you try anything new that you haven't tried in New York City?
I did. I had the gyukatsu and a lot of different traditional Japanese foods. Usually, Japanese food is a delicacy outside of Japan. I mean, I think in Japan itself it's still a delicacy, but it's so much cheaper now that the yen has deflated so much and our US dollars have become more powerful. So the food was cheap and really delicious. So I personally really liked how fresh the eggs were. You could just have like raw eggs, and when you asked for an egg, it was so interesting because inside was still cooked and runny, but outside was like really cold, like the hard shell, and you had to just crack the hard shell and then you put the egg in.
Oh, it was a boiled egg that is inside running. but it's a cold egg.
Yes, which was interesting. Yeah, I didn't know how that technology worked. Same thing when I went on the airplane. They gave us these um, napkins that were like really, really hot. And then all of a sudden, it just stopped being hot. I think it might been like some electromagnetic technology or something along those lines.
Talking about the hot towels you put on your back and something to cool yourself off.
Yes.
Wouldn't that just be a transfer of energy
Yes.
from your body or from the towel to your body? That's it.
Oh, I guess that is. Yeah, you remember AP Physics 1. I did not do well, and that is why I went to business school.
I see. That's okay. There's a lot of people that can do science. It's okay. No worries.
Okay, that's true. I mean, I went to Bronx Science, the Bronx High School of Science,
Where Neil deGrasse Tyson went.
where Neil deGrasse Tyson went, and so did his daughter.
Have you met him before?
I think I met him at one of the graduation events. I don't recall.
Do you follow him at all? And what he does? What his current work and stuff?
Not really. Not a big astronomy kind of person anymore. Because, we're in New York City. There's no stars to be glazing at.
Yeah, I think definitely need to be outside of New York, upstate, Long Island, or just outside of New York to be doing that kind of stuff.
Anywhere that doesn't have bright lights and tall buildings that are
And
blocking
a lot
all
of
the stars.
space.
Yes, lots of space. And lack of pollution.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about pollution in New York City these days?
It's not terrible. I think it smells bad in a lot of areas because of the legalization of marijuana, as well as the homeless people that sleep on the ground in Midtown
Mm-hmm.
and all around New York. But other than that, I think it's good because every morning you wake up and you see the air quality index, and it's below 50 every single day. So
Well, that's
a
really
indicator.
good.
Yeah.
Right, because I remember when Canada forest fires were burning and the sky was orange and we were in like 120 or 160 and it was like, this is toxic to breathe in.
That was like 2 years ago, right?
I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we had the earthquake. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was living in Jersey City, in downtown Jersey City.
Oh, so did you feel it worse there because it was closer or no?
I don't know. I don't know, but I do remember. This is what my initial thought when it started. The building started shaking a little bit, and then it just kept going. So I thought it was potentially. I don't really know what I thought. I forgot what I thought, but it just continued on, and I was like kind of scared that something was happening. So I just stood up from my chair and I just walked outside and see what was going on, and then it stopped. And then I looked at the news and I was like, "Oh, it's an earthquake."
That's exactly what I did too. I was sitting and working from my office at home, and I noticed the windows were rattling, and I was like, "Wait, why is this not stopping?" And I was scared because you know how earthquakes what they could do. They could topple an entire building.
Yeah.
Have you seen that earthquake that happened in Thailand recently?
Yeah, everyone saw it.
Yeah, it was bad. And then the water from the top swimming pool came down.
It wasn't Thailand. It wasn't just Thailand. It was Thailand, Myanmar, all the surrounding countries.
Myanmar lost a lot of people.
Yeah. Or Burma.
Burma, yes. Whatever the political term is.
I forgot. Ask Kant.
Yes, ask our friend Kant.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about trash and New York City being interesting. So recently, as of I believe April 1st, they started mandating composting. And they also started mandating containerizing your trash. Can you believe it that people did not containerize their trash back then?
I've always done that, but nothing changed for me.
I mean, it makes sense to containerize your trash. Otherwise, birds, rats, anything could get inside the trash.
I will say though, you guys do a very good job at keeping your front yard clean and making sure that trash actually goes in the trash bin, compost goes in the compost bin, recycle and all that stuff because there's no rats in your front yard.
Oh yes,
except
thank you so
when the
much.
people around you have rats, but it's really clean. I
appreciate
it.
It's a people problem, honestly.
Yeah.
But you know what really helps with making that sure is through having signs, clearly labeling things, and that's something I learned from Japan. Because as a foreigner, I could not understand anything and I could not read anything. But when I saw those signs, I was like, hey, that's for me.
There's a couple signs throughout the house that I look at it and I appreciate that you brought the signs back, but I look at it and I'm like, I don't read this. I don't know what it says sometimes.
Well,
Like
that might be
soap, for
because you're
example.
you're a rebellious person looking right at the camera.
I'm not.
Ah, that's what you don't. That's what you think.
What do you mean by that statement, though?
I mean, who went to boarding school? Not me.
Okay. Anyways, new topic.
Anyways, new topic.
What's your financial goals and financial strategy?
Well, that's really deep. I honestly, I don't look at my portfolio too much when the markets are doing good because, it's only when things are shaky you're like, oh, okay, now it's time to look at it. So I actually most recently looked at it during the tariff wars. The stock price was tanking, portfolio was tanking, and then I was doing some more trading activity.
What kind of trading activity?
I think I sold and I bought, but I sold for the first time, which means a recession indicator.
Do you know what the technical indicators are for a recession?
When the yield curve inverses,
It can't be just that, right?
when the VIX goes really high, volatility index.
Yeah, I was told Krishna had mentioned another indicator is if GDP, the production of GDP goes negative 2 quarters in a row, then that's one
Oh,
indicator that you're in a
I have
recession.
heard of
So
that.
now we're going from Q1 to Q2, and everyone's reporting their fiscal years, and there's been one so far that's negative GDP
Okay,
in the
so now we're
US.
ready for the next one.
Yeah,
I mean, there's also what CPI, inflation index, and all those different
job reports,
ones,
yes.
job reports. Yep, all of those. I mean, there's so many. Like, how do you keep track of that? And I mean, that's what hedge funds do. They look at thematic investing and they just kind of do those investments based on these outstanding events.
I thought you would know more about it, but you were in finance.
Yeah, I did study mathematics and computational finance, but you get into the real world and things do change and you forget about things. So,
I don't think you answered the first question though. What's your financial goals? Do you have a 10, 20 year, 5 year plan?
10,
What are you
20,
thinking?
5 year plan, 5 year plan, 5 year plan. Get into more real estate. I think real estate's really fun. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, real estate's kind of hard. It's kind of really difficult to do. But I think if you make the right choices and make the right decisions and you're really smart about it and you do your due diligence, then you should be in a good, safe spot. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who's deciding what you're gonna do, right? You're ultimately deciding who you're gonna bring in. If you were an investor, as like to bring in new tenants or renew tenants.
When you started the process of buying real estate, did you ever? Everyone talks about the risks that come along with real estate and
Mm-hmm.
how they try to make that a kind of a big influencing factor for telling people to watch out, and people will take that and say, "Oh, maybe it's not a good idea." Did you ever take that and think, "Oh, maybe that's not a good idea right now," or what were your thoughts when you took
I
in
always
advice?
joked about how people say Seattle always rains to keep the property values down. But does that happen? Not really. So yes, there are a lot of risks in real estate, but risk comes with reward, right? So depending on how interest rates are looking at, then you can see if it's a profitable investment. And even then, there's always going to be appreciation throughout time because these are long-term investments, or they should be.
What's Are you planning to buy more in the future, in the near term, or
Yeah, I'm looking to buy a townhouse maybe in the Arlington, DC area, but interest rates are not helping at this point.
yeah? I think they're still what above 6.
I think so. Yeah, last I checked, I think they were hitting around 7%.
And as you scale, right now you're currently managing your real estate portfolio
Mm-hmm.
by yourself. Are you planning to add on a property management or an LLC to manage all of that and put it all in there, or at what point do you plan to do that if so?
No, that's an interesting question. As of right now, it's quite manageable. When you set up the different protocol, statement procedures, right? Um, you're setting up for automation. So if you have it set up correctly, then it doesn't require too many hands-on. If you build the right relationships, then the people that are there can help you. For example, I have my property in Seattle right now that my tenant just left because of a Austin relocation for their job, but they were gonna still pay it up till the end of their lease. So I was gonna think about making a trip down to Seattle and go and find my tenant, right? But instead, what I did was I just marketed the property and I connected my tenant with them because at the same time I'm helping them, but also they're helping me in a way.
And what about the relationships with your real estate agent, your broker? How did you find them?
Honestly, when you think about real estate, I think that I'm smart enough that I went to college to kind of do every piece and part of it. Maybe I'm just not qualified in terms of having a broker's license where I have to hire a broker, where I have to hire a lawyer. But otherwise, if there's no requirements as such, then it's just a matter of a transaction. You have money, you have a deal, and you agree on it. And if you want to finance it, then yes, you need to finance it.
Yeah. And then
it should be that simple.
I would think so too.
Yeah, I mean, you bought a property, so tell me about how you think about all this.
I think it was kind of hard to find, for me, the real estate person that I reached out to had so when I first looked at New York, Westchester, I had a real estate agent, and then I had realized that Westchester and New York City or New York City more so than Westchester, but Westchester follows along suit with New York City in terms of the housing. They both have historically low supply of actual condominiums. They all have stock ops, which is not ideal, right? And so after realizing that Westchester was very similar to New York City in that way, I pivoted and told him I'm going to start looking in Jersey City because I see that there's plenty. And he got me in contact with the person in Jersey City. And saying all that, and then also my mortgage broker was licensed in New Jersey, so that was nice.
So that works.
But I had those two people on my team, but it kind of still felt like they weren't necessarily on my team because obviously they're both vying for
might be a
broker
trust
fee,
issues, but
right?
I agree, yes.
And so it never really felt like I had a team. I just went in there with the mindset of buying without actually thinking, oh, am I going to trust these people? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, trust is a hard
it felt
part.
It's
an emotional transaction. It's not just financial.
Yeah, and it felt very lonely as well doing the whole thing by myself because you don't have anyone.
I think you just had a poor experience, right?
Yeah.
I think I think the team you had weren't supporting you, and you didn't feel supported, and as a result, it was not a good experience.
Yeah. So how did you get into real estate? Because for me, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a very famous book, and then obviously others as well. I think some by David Ramsey and others. But yeah, how did you get in that?
I think it comes across of our culture, like my background being Shanghainese. My parents have always talked about how important real estate is. You know, we have these marriage kind of culture where it's like, oh, in order to get married, you must have a house, a car, you must have good income, and yada yada. But for me, why I made my first purchase was I actually just looked at rentals in the area, and it was comparable to New York, but then I looked at the pricing. So I said, hey, this is like maybe 60% off New York City. So it made me it was more possible for me to purchase, right?
In New York City?
No, not in New York City, in Seattle.
Oh.
So I ended up purchasing my first condo there. And it was supposed to be my first what do they call it? A primary home? Yes, a primary home. Interest was really low. Yeah. And then my parents always said, you can deduct your mortgage taxes and whatnot with interest. But I don't think that's true anymore because the standard deduction is like $20,000. And unless you have a lot of interest, then that's probably higher than the standard. But there's always the benefits of capital appreciation, you're building home equity, all of those great benefits.
Potentially having someone pay off your mortgage.
Yeah, that too, if you become an investor. I mean, it's still a capitalist society.
Yeah, definitely. So you're saying it's very common for people from Shanghai to value
I
the
don't know if
importance
it's
of?
very common, but I think like Shanghai and New York City,
They're very
they're like the
similar.
cream of the crop in terms of cities
Their respective countries. Yeah.
in their respective countries. Exactly. So also metropolitan in a way.
Does your family, before moving or when they moved, did they own property in Shanghai?
I think everyone did back then. It was like a communist country, or I don't know how it worked. But I knew my mom's dad was very wealthy back then, but then the communist country kind of ended his time, and then my dad lived in the very proper city of Shanghai.
Because I think I read on an article on Shanghai News or Shanghai real estate, and it sounded like it's not truly an asset to be able to inherit and pass down. It's what I read is they buy from the government,
Mm-hmm.
and the government will give them basically until a very long old age,
Right.
99, and then they have to give it back to the government.
And then they relocate somewhere else.
Is that
Yeah,
true?
there's a lot of ghost
So
towns.
they don't actually own the property.
Well, there's a lot of ghost towns in China from like these quickly developed buildings.
Yeah.
And although they say there's a lot of people living in China, I still don't understand why there's these ghost towns. But that might be another topic for another day. Might be some more politics related.
Yeah, just maybe undesirable living.
Yeah,
And you have been to Shanghai, right? A couple
I
times.
have been to Shanghai. Yeah, I went. I went with my dad and my sister during winter break in my junior year. I think it was freshman year of college during winter break.
Did you guys go to the dating market in Shanghai, or
I did hear about dating in China is like people hold these signs at a park and they carry some umbrellas.
so you didn't go to it?
No, I was too young. I was in college still.
That is not too young.
Maybe in the traditional mindset it is.
Okay.
Yeah, because you got to be focusing on school and finding your future work. So it takes preparation to get there.
So, are you still like that right now, or are you dating?
Well, now that I'm done with education, I'm still solely focused on work, and I also have many other hobbies outside of work too. So I keep myself pretty occupied, but I do think I have the right timing to be actively in the dating market, but it's not easy in New York City, and I'll tell you that.
Can you speak a little bit about it?
No, in just New York City, people, it's high competition, right? A lot of people are going to be in these professional fields like doctors, lawyers, and those are going to be cream of the crop. There's also people that are interested in cultural matches too, right? So there's a lot of different dynamics that go against you, despite even whatever you're doing right.
So, how has your experience been though?
I think it's been fine. I think what dating should be more is not this online dating where you're swiping and kind of having chat conversations, but more so that you actually go to in-person events and you make initiative. You take initiative. That's really important. I think if you take initiative, then it really shows you're interested. So for me, um, I don't know. I think it might be more personality wise where I am outgoing as a person, but when it comes to in person dating, I don't see it as much as I don't see it unless it's a dating event, then I see it as a dating opportunity. But if it's something else, then I don't see it, if that makes sense.
You don't, in the moment when you're going out with someone, you're saying you don't see it, or
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
later?
Like if I was to, do like a board game or something, I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't take that time or that advantage to be like, oh, this is time for a dating opportunity. Although I think a lot of it is becoming it that, like run clubs, they have been doing the lunch dating run club. So if that run club was specifically for dating, then that would also fit what I need.
So, do you have a good experience? Have had a long good experience, or
Well,
was
I don't
that-
think I've had my heart broken, which is a good idea. And that's what keeps me strong still, even though a lot of people say,
That's counterintuitive, don't you know?
what's counterintuitive.
That you just said you haven't had your heart broken, that's what keeps you strong. But it's the opposite effect. When you go through trials and tribulations, that's what makes you stronger.
That is a good point. So how do I get my heart broken now?
It's not about purposely going out to get your heart broken.
Well, that's about taking risk. And maybe I'm
Exactly.
being risk averse, and that's why I don't get my heart broken, and that's why I don't grow.
So when you look back on your dating experiences with the people that you've gone out with, whether that be from meeting them in person or on Hinge,
Right.
what is there any points in time that you think, oh, maybe I was being more conservative or avoiding the risk of getting
Yes,
stuck on?
like especially in Asian culture, like you're not gonna hold hands on the first date unless you do. Do you?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes.
No, likely no.
Exactly. But if you did do on the first date, then
It's a good
it would
sign.
help you.
Yeah.
So it takes me some more time to do that. Even on the second day, I might be a little iffy.
Or switching topics,
Mm-hmm.
what has been your impression of technology, where it's going?
No, I absolutely love it. I think everyone should be adopting technology in the right way, especially when it's so free these days. Back then, it's like, oh, you had to pay this thing and this, that. For example, let's use something basic like tutoring. Tutoring wasn't always free. You didn't have Khan Academy all the time, and it costed money. But when you democratize different things that is easily accessible, then you should definitely take advantage. Like I think China said starting September they're gonna mandate AI in their education system. So
As young
how
as 6 years old.
at 6 years old, right? Absolutely. So I mean, even with this new technology now, I feel like you don't need to go to college anymore. If you're smart enough and literate in high school and you have generative AI to help you with different queries, then you're kind of set for life.
Yeah, but that I would say you can, generally speaking, that's true for people that show their geniuses.
Right.
But for people that are
Prodigy
normal,
childs too.
people that
But
are
also
normal, it's
depends
hard.
on the type of work you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not just asking Google blah blah blah, but I'm thinking about more productivity ways where I was looking at making signs, right? I was looking at making signs because I noticed that there were problems in the house that I wanted to address. And the only easier way and the least passive aggressive way was to just make a general sign. So I just prompted it and it was able to quickly generate me a sign. It had all the things that I wanted instead of me putting something together and it didn't look good. It's nice because with generative AI, they have their own kind of personality that you can ask it to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not a very creative person, right? I studied finance.
Yeah, I'm not either. There's actually I was looking on LinkedIn. I
Mm-hmm.
found an interesting post or an interesting stat from, I think it's the generative AI LinkedIn page that just posts everything in generative AI part.
Yeah.
And it was saying how, or no, it wasn't that. It was a talk between Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and
Yeah,
then
Satya
Mark
Nadella.
Zuckerberg. And I think it said Mark had asked him the question of how much of your code is being written by AI. And he said
Oh,
at least 20-30% of it.
wow, that's a
And,
lot.
and then another, on the same page of it, it said that Cursor, right? The AI
Mm-hmm.
editor that people use a lot now,
Right.
they pointed out the statistic that at around 1 billion lines of code is accepted every single day that is written by AI.
Wow.
And that
So who's checking
before,
all this?
it's just the metrics that they collect on them,
Okay.
right?
No, who's
The
checking on this? Like, who's checking to make sure this is all okay? Like, why do we have all this code that's being deployed by AI?
Well, no, it's not necessarily. It's a lot. Obviously, it's a lot of corporations and employees that work at
Right,
corporations, but
right.
it's also just individuals that are using it, right?
That's
I'm
true.
using it for my own purpose,
Right. I
not
mean, it's still
necessarily
it's
for a
still
company.
human that's entering, and there's
Yeah,
still human error that's being reviewed.
yeah,
So it's perfectly safe.
exactly. And then the other side of it was before that. I think it said it takes all the users that code to write 1 billion lines of code. I think it said a whole day, was it? And then,
Right.
or maybe a whole month. I forgot what it was,
Oh
but
wow.
it's significantly increasing the velocity at which people can write features.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're just having AI do a lot of it. That's what I'm doing now. So.
Right, that's great. I mean, you should always have like an AI kind of focused career because that's what's leading the way.
Yeah.
So you're in the right talent pool. All right.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. This has been a good conversation.
Mm-hmm. It's a pleasure to have you here.
That's it for it. Thank you, guys.